Yo guys, what's going on? It's Ryuga here with another updated tier list. I figured we would do one because the mid-chapter patch is coming out, and as you guys know, or maybe you don't, I'll inform you, we now have the Trickster added to DBD. We have changes for Trickster, we have changes for Demogorgon, we have changes for Freddy, we have add-on changes for Huntress. So that's going to maybe change a little bit how the tier list is. Probably not too much, but I have had a bit of an opinion change since my last tier list with a lot of these placements. Now before we get into it, as always, keep the comment section civil. Don't, DBD is not some kind of, personal attack just because somebody has a different opinion than you. You feel free to discuss it, but if you come in the comment section calling people stupid and saying that they don't know what they're talking about, probably just don't leave a comment. I'll go ahead and talk about myself a little bit. I'm a Legion main, but, I don't play Legion as much as I used to, so I kind of consider myself a freelance. I play every single killer, a lot. I have almost 4,500 hours. I think I have right now 4,330 something. So my experience comes from, just a shit ton of playing. I've played in competitive as well. I've played most of these killers in scrims. I've played them pretty much to their highest level. I know very much about all of these killers. So trust me, or at least try to trust me when I say this, that my opinion does come from a place of experience. And when I try to weigh in on these tier lists, I try to be very objective. I don't let my favoritism of certain killers, weigh in on my opinion. I will take their base kit and what they have, and take it at face value and explain why I feel certain ways about these killers. And feel free to disagree. Just know it's all backed by experience, and this is where I'm coming from. So now, one more thing before we get into it is that this tier list is going to be considered going against good players, just good players. We're not talking about competitive. We're just talking about, going against people who aren't necessarily bots, and without using the most strong add-ons they have, general, brown add-ons you might have, etc. This is what we're considering. We're not considering, well, what if I'm playing Myers with Tombstone, or, well, what if I'm playing against, competitive team, we're going against Oracle. No. This is just general, we're going against decent players, maybe even a Swift, just how these players do, or how these killers do in general against, just good teams with good builds and relatively okay add-ons. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump into it. So a lot of you probably know what's coming first if you've been a fan or you've watched my previous tier list. My opinion on this is never going to change. First killer on this tier list, sorry, I keep backtracking. In these tier lists, this is my first tier list that I'm going to actually make these killers in order on the tier list in terms of how good I think they are. Usually I just throw them in the tier list without any specific order. This time it's going to be in ascending order. We're going to have the worst killer on the left in that tier, going to the right being the best. So the first killer I place is going to be the worst in that tier list, etc, etc. Alright, so now we can jump into it. You guys know my opinion on the pig. The pig is very inconsistent. She has everything in her base kit, so you might be wondering how I can place her so low. Okay, so she has stealth, but it's not good. She has an anti-loop, but it's not really good. And she has generator stall, but it's inconsistent. So, I don't think a killer, for example, that can go into a game against good players and wipe them at 3 gens because their traps took all 4, pig boxes to get off, but then face the exact same team on the exact same map with the exact same setup, except they got their traps off on the first try, and then the pig just got stomped. I can't consider that killer good. She's just too inconsistent. Now, her stealth just isn't even good. Can you imagine if you had Ghostface, for example? And imagine if Ghostface could only lose his tear radius when he was crouching. Could you imagine how bad his stealth would be? That's what makes pig stealth bad. Her anti-loop is just bad in general because it's very easy to counter if you pay attention. And even if you try to run away from the loop and the pig is smart and she just stands up, even then, it's just not good anti-loop. And her stuff is just too inconsistent. You either get somebody searching 4 boxes or the whole team only has to search 1 box and you get literally no slowdown. She just takes too long to get pressure. She's too inconsistent, and that's about it. She just doesn't have a kit that is reliable. And that is why I put her in the trash tier. I think she needs some kind of consistency change. Now, don't get me wrong, she has some great add-ons that you can put on. Some even oppressive add-ons. But it's just, even if you put those add-ons on, you can still get the inconsistencies. And that's why I think that she is one of the worst killers in the game. Now, when we're talking about this, don't forget that just because I think she's the worst killer, it doesn't mean that she can't win, because we do have S, A, B, C, D, and E, but the best part about DBD is that an E tier killer can still crash on a team. It might be harder than, of course, S tier, but E tier killer will still be able to win. You know, it doesn't mean they're bad. It just means that out of comparatively to the other killers, they're just not as good. So keep that in mind. All right, so we only actually have one more killer that I consider the trash tier. And right now, we're going to go ahead and throw Trapper in there. While against, bot teams, he might be okay. Against good teams, you just don't have enough time in the day to set up and do, like, very well. I've played against really good teams. When they go against Trapper, there's some teams who just avoid grass. They would literally rather you M1 them and completely avoid grass than step in a trap. And that buys them so much time to do gens. It's absurd. His base kit is just not good. He starts with literally one trap. His brown add-ons make him bearable. You can start with 2. But even then, all you need is one person to go around harassing the Trapper. The other one's gen rush. And he just doesn't have that much. He's very fun. I love setup killers. He's like one of my favorite killers to play when it comes to setting up. Especially you put on Corrupt Intervention. But his kit is just too weak. And against good players, you're going to take too much time setting up that they probably are going to have too much gen progress. And you are going to pretty much have lost the game by now. And there's also a tiny bit of luck that factors into whether they step on traps or not. And what I mean by luck is obviously your skill plays a role on where you place these traps. But you can't make a survivor. You can't, quote unquote, force them to go to where your traps are. You can zone them, and there's a chance that they run towards your traps. You could definitely zone them, but there's still a chance that they just won't go to the area where your traps are. It just won't happen. So that's just the way that it works. All right, so that's really all we're going to talk about Trapper. Let's go ahead and move on to D tier, which actually only has one killer in it. And that's Myers. So a lot of you may disagree with this because some people think that Myers tier 3 has more value than it does. Don't get me wrong. Myers tier 3, it's very strong and it can have good value. You can unfortunately still loop his tier 3 like a normal killer. But the reason that he's D tier isn't because of, him lacking power when he's actually, in tier 3. It's when he's in tier 1. Now, a good team, can make Myers take forever to get out of tier 1. And this is the unfortunate thing about his power. Trying to get stock to get into tier 3 or out of tier 1 takes so long that he just can't be put any higher, because a decent team that knows how to keep LOS and keep him at bay is just going to hamper him in most gameplay. And I've went against these teams. I played him in competitive, even though that's not what we're talking about. But these good teams that just know, how fast Myers is. He's very slow, and they know how to hug loops tightly and not give him stock. They will destroy Myers. But at least when he gets out of tier 1 and he gets to tier 2 and he starts able to stock again, his tier 3 is great. He could snowball. He has great snowball potential. He's not bad at by any means. But it's just he takes so long to get out of tier 1 that I don't feel comfortable putting him any higher. That's the only thing that's holding him back. Now, some things with stealth killers that you guys might not know is that you don't need Spine Chill to counter them. Even if you're somewhere where you can't see around you, if you pay attention, you can actually see crows. You can hear crows. You can hear sound cues. These killers do set crows off. So while you don't need Spine Chill, if you see a crow or hear a crow get set off or see a crow in the distance, you can actually use that to know that the killer is approaching. So he has a lot of counters in tier 1. Once he gets to tier 3, he's still loopable, but, you just have to be careful because he can snowball heavily. Other than that, I don't have a lot of gripe with his power. It's simply he's just weak in tier 1. That's it. So let's go ahead and move on to the C tier, which is low middle tier. We're going to go ahead and follow up Michael with his brother, Ghostface. Now, you guys might be surprised by this, and I've actually changed my opinion on Ghostface since my last tier list. I actually used to hold Ghostface a lot higher, but now I don't. So first I'm going to start off by talking about the same things with his power. Most Ghostfaces don't crouch around. So if he's stealthed and he's walking around, he's going to set off birds. And you can use the birds being set off to know he's coming, even if you're in areas where you can't physically see him. He has a lot of ways to know where he is if you just know, what to look for Some people think, well, he's stealth. There's literally no way to know he's coming. That's just completely wrong. There's so many cues that you can use to know he's coming. Now, besides that, we're not even going to talk about Smite Chill. I consider Ghostface to be Legion with extra steps. So think about it. While Ghostface does have his stealth and sometimes he can get free hits, he has to stalk people to expose them, and then not only that, he is forced to commit to them in order to down them, and he can be looped like a normal M1 killer. Now let's take Legion. Legion doesn't have stealth, but he can echolocate all of the survivors, Feral Frenzy them, and get them all one-shot. Is that not pretty much Ghostface with less steps? Because Ghostface, what he has to do is sneak up on them, stalk them, expose them, enter into a chase with them, commit to them, and down them. Legion finds survivor, stabs, and then he can pretty much quote-unquote expose the team around him, and he doesn't even have to commit because they will stay injured. So that's why I actually think Ghostface is a lot lower than I used to think he is. Now, he has some good add-ons for recovery that can actually make him pretty decent, but even then, as long as you can pay attention, you have eyes, and you know exactly where to look on your screen to reveal him, even though it's very buggy, I think that he's C tier. Now, like I said, this doesn't mean he's bad. It's just he doesn't have a lot going for him. So that's why I'm going to put him in the low mid tier. He's fun, decent killer, but overall against a good team, he's not going to do as well as a lot of these other killers on the list. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about Wraith now. So Wraith got some buffs in the last patch. He actually gets Purple Windstorm base kit. And this is exciting because I get to move him finally. I think I used to put him in D or E tier. But now that he's faster, he's definitely low mid tier now. He can get across the map very fast. He has a better, he better holds his movement speed out of cloaking. He's pretty much a better Ghostface. Because he has movement speed, which helps him traverse the map, and he sometimes can get free hits. It depends on how much the survivors are paying attention, because his cloaking also got a buff to where you don't see him from as far. So he's a lot more threatening now, but since he is an M1 killer, he still has to get hit number 1, hit number 2, and he has to, commit to a chase for very long. So while being susceptible to pallet looping, he still has that mobility, which has bumped him up a few tiers in the tier list. Now, one thing I like about him is that he has a mangled add-on, so you can pretty much have 5 perks with him if you truly desire. But overall, he's just a decent killer, especially with his changes. It made me very happy to play him. So we're going to keep him there. I don't think he's much stronger than that. Some people say that now he's A tier because he moves fast. I highly disagree. And I think anybody who has a decent amount of hours would probably agree that, he might be like stealthy, but as long as you're a decent player and you know how to loop, he's not going to prove that much of a problem. Next up, we're going to put our boy Clown. Clown went through a few changes. I was tempted to possibly make Wraith higher than he is, but we're starting to get into the anti-loop and powers that can hit people over loops now. And I just don't think that Wraith can compete with Clown in terms of the anti-loop. And I think the anti-loop is important because you may be able to have mobility and you may be able to have, stealth. But if you can't get past the anti-loop, I think that it's going to prove a lot more of a problem than you think. So Clown has a little bit of movement speed. He has a strategy that I like to use. I like to toss 2 bottles, step in the first speed cloud, start reloading. I'll finish my reload and step in the second cloud. This is a very optimal way, and you can watch in some of my videos or maybe even on Twitch, where you can actually use your movement speed without losing a lot of distance and also keeping your bottles maximum. And his anti-loop is very good, and he has a lot of, brown add-ons that can change the gameplay, such as swapping the colors. So there's a lot of mind gaming when it comes to Clown and a lot of versatility that you can use when it comes to his bottles. But at the end of the day, he's still an M1 killer and you could just insta drop a pallet. So that's just slightly what makes him better than Wraith, because you can force a lot of pallets down, you can speed yourself up, and you can slow survivors down. Other than that, I'm not going to put him much higher because, he just doesn't have what it takes to, jump up a tier, because he has to get the hit, and then still, survivors can insta drop a pallet, and he only has 4 bottles, so eventually he's gonna have to reload, and at that point, you lose the survivor. But at least they buffed his reload speed. That it at least makes him a lot better than he was, or else I'd probably keep him in the trash tier. Let's go ahead and talk about the next killer in the list. I'm gonna put Plague. I think people have been overrating Plague for a while now. While I don't think she is necessarily bad, I have the same issue with her as I have with Pig. I think that she's very inconsistent. And a good team will pretty much inhibit her power. Now, a lot of people thought that when Plague came out, the best strategy is to never cleanse. That's just not true. If you're in a team, you need to be able to coordinate your cleansing. So the more you cleanse, the less fountains overall she's going to be able to use. And you might just think what you just said makes no sense. Now, hear me out. So she starts with 1, and I think she has, what, 6 total? If all 4 survivors cleanse, she only has 1 fountain left. And if somebody purposely gets sick and cleanses at that fountain, it wipes out all of her fountains and forces her to get Corrupt Purge, probably in a spot where she doesn't even want it. So you have a way of cleansing and completely getting rid of her power. Not only that, but she suffers from a problem, which is why I won't make her better than Legion, of it takes too long to break people and get pressure on the team. And you can spend a lot of time getting pressure on the team, and then they could just go run away and insta-cleanse, completely deleting all the pressure you just spent on them. While her Corrupt Purge is good, especially if you're on a map like Blood Lodge, if survivors know how to run jungle gyms well and they know how to run tight loops and crouch, your Corrupt Purge actually isn't that great. You slow down to like Huntress speed when you're trying it. And not only that, dedicated servers proves to be a very big hindrance towards using her power, because it'll show the animation of a survivor getting hit by your power, but then they won't actually, be touched by it. And one of my biggest gripes with Plague is that she has to respect pallets. And I find this to be the most ridiculously outdated thing. Because if you have Corrupt Purge, the fact that you have to respect pallets loses you so much distance. And if you don't respect pallets, then you just get stunned by it and you instantly lose all of your power. I think that's just not fair. I think that needs to be looked at. Because you have Oni, who, takes 2 hits, probably can get his power working faster than Plague. And then he can go Mach 10 speed, insta-down survivors, and insta-down multiple survivors. And if you stun Oni with a pallet, he could just bring his bonking fucking whatever the fuck it's called and destroy the pallet. It's like instantly. It's that easy. So I think that she needs a little bit of tweaks. She's a bit inconsistent towards her power because she relies so much on the decision of the survivors. And if the survivors make good decisions in terms of cleansing, then she just gets fucked. Now, if they don't, then Plague becomes a powerhouse. But we're talking about decent players. Like I said, this tier list is based on players who have a semi-good idea of what they're doing, and they don't just throw the game and, bot cleanse every chance they get. That's pretty much all I have to say about her. So now I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next killer, and I'm going to put Deathslinger here. Now, I've thought about this for quite a while. I have. And I just don't think... I think that people put Deathslinger in a higher rating than he deserves. A lot of people hate Deathslinger, especially I don't mean this in a negative connotation. I'm just going to use the word survivor mains because that's just the only way I think about this. Or I know how to describe those people. When you go on Twitter or forums, Deathslinger seems to be one of the most fucking hated killers. People want to DC against him a lot. They say he's no fun, but I really think he's overrated. I don't think he's as oppressive as people think he is. Because you have to hit every single one of your shots against a good team. Because I have even videos on my YouTube where I hit every single shot and I'm still at 1 gen. He's just he's just not oppressive. And if you miss a shot or two, he's much worse than Huntress because, well, maybe not much worse, but he has to reload after every shot he misses. This automatically makes him worse than most other projectile killers. As long as you know how to throw a pallet, especially in jungle gems, he's just not that lethal. And the problem that a lot of people have is that they try to pre-dodge and they lose all of their distance. I'm literally walking towards a survivor and they're dancing left and right. And they end up I just don't shoot. I just walk up and I hit them because they're dancing. And I'm like, why would I shoot you? You're losing all your distance. But people just played really bad against him. He doesn't have the pressure that people think he does. He's 110. His strongest thing is his smaller tear radius. But even then, I just don't think he's as oppressive as people think. And when it comes to windows and pallets, as long as you insta-drop them and it's not a really bad junk tile, he won't be able to hit you. Now, windows, for example, that's a little harder because he can hit you over certain windows depending on how close he is. But unlike Huntress, he cannot M1 you from a distance. Huntress can hatch it over the window and hit you, but if Deathslinger shoots you from a window from very far away, the chain's going to break before he can reach you. I just don't think he's as good as people say, but he's still good. You know, being able to hit people from range and drag them in, it's fine. But he just has too many nuances, such as being slow and a lot of counters revolving pallets, that I just don't think people... I just don't understand, is what I guess. I don't understand how people think he's so strong. Because moving on to our next killer, I think if you have a killer to hate, it's actually going to be Trickster. Because I think that Trickster is more oppressive than Deathslinger in almost every way. Because he has the small tear radius, and at almost any loop, he can down you with his knives. And not only that, it doesn't matter if he misses. Because he has like 60 knives. It doesn't matter if he misses. As long as he knows what he's doing and he can hit you, like, it doesn't matter. He can miss 10, but he's going to hit you with 20 of them and you're going to go down. Against junk loops, you have like literally zero counter. You just die. Even jungle gems, you can run jungle gems properly, but if he keeps chucking knives every time he turns a corner, eventually you're just going to die. Deathslinger can't do that. Especially if the pallet's down, Trickster can still down you. Now, one of Trickster's biggest benefits is that he is extremely punishing of hook altruism because of how fast he can throw knives. And he can down a survivor and rip through borrowed time, you know, before they even get off the hook. So if you guys didn't know, when an unhook animation starts, that's when they begin gaining laceration. And you can actually max laceration them before they even touch the ground from being unhooked. It's actually crazy. And not only that, is you rack up so much main event while that's happening that you can activate main event after you down either the unhooker or the person on the hook, and then you get another down, and you can possibly even carry it and get more downs. He's just an extreme altruistic punisher, and he's almost similar to Old Legion, to where as long as you don't, like, you know, obviously miss all of your fucking attacks. Like, you know, if you're just bad at Trickster and you can't aim, that's on you, right? At a certain point, you're just gonna die against Trickster. Like, there is no if, ands, or buts. The only thing that's gonna save you is a God palette. And even then, there are a lot of God palettes he can play around. And I think he is a lot more oppressive than Deathslinger is. He's just a lot more oppressive because no matter where you are, he can just fuck you up. He just fuck you up. And another big difference between him and Deathslinger is that when Deathslinger injures somebody, usually he has to wait again and reload after shooting somebody to do it again. Trickster doesn't. When Trickster injures you with his knives, he can keep throwing his knives. And while you get the speed boost, you're being pelted again by the knives. And you're already at like 5 laceration. Like, even during your speed boost. And then you can get insta-downed almost again if you don't have a lot of cover nearby. I just think he's very oppressive. I think with his changes, with the recoil being nerfed, he's very strong. And I felt like talking a lot in detail about him because, you know, he's a new killer. So I just need to vent how I feel specifically about him. Now, if you want more about how I feel and his power, feel free to watch. I've released a Trickster guide earlier last week. And I also have some gameplay. So feel free to go watch that and you can see how I play him. I feel like he's just very, very strong. So let's go ahead and move on to the next killer. All the projectile killers are very close to one another on this tier list. Let's go ahead and put on Huntress. Now, Huntress is another killer where people think that she's like one of the best or better killers in this game. You know, while she's good, I just don't think that she's, you know, A tier quality. Now, she can get downs around windows, over pallets, and this makes her strong. But unfortunately, she is 110 and she loses a lot of movement when she winds up hatchets. But this is actually very healthy for the game because it introduces this aspect of mind game between the survivor and the Huntress. Because at a pallet, you have to choose, is she going to wind up or is she going to walk through it? And you have to decide whether you're going to drop the pallet or not. And this is a very healthy interaction between killer and survivor. I do think Huntress is quite balanced. She did get overhauls to her add-ons, and she did get these add-ons that are for hatchet flight speed, which might be a little strong. Eerie head got nerfed. Otherwise, there's not really a lot of great add-ons she has anymore. No more exhaustion. She has like a 5-second one. It's nothing crazy. But overall, her base gets fine. You know, she has an okay anti-loop while being slow enough that it's not oppressive. And I think that her ability to injure somebody fast and instantly, unlike Trickster, is what makes her better than Trickster. Especially being able to do it from further with a faster projectile and only needing to hit that one. And there are Huntress players who are very, very, very good, but I don't think that I just don't think that even Huntress played at the highest level is A tier or anything. Because a good team, no matter what, will punish her being 110. And that's the same problem with like Trickster and Deathslinger. They'll always punish the 110, and there's nothing you can do about it. But otherwise, her anti-loop is strong, her ability to hit windows and prevent vaults, and her healthy mind gaming at pallets is what makes her a very decent killer. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and move on to the next one. I'm going to put Legion here. I always get shit for this because people still think Legion is the most trash killer in the game. I suggest you listen. Me and thoughts don't necessarily have the exact same placement with Legion, but I feel like anybody who has played Legion at a high level understands. He's not as bad as people say. His 1v1 is incredible. Or sorry, 1v4, not 1v1. His ability to hit a survivor and chain it to the entire team is very good. And, people argue with me. And they say, well, what if the team just spreads? Alright, so there's one problem with what you say. Actually, two. So the first thing is that spreading counters every single killer in the game. So you can't really use that as a counter argument for Legion specifically. If people 4-man spread against literally any of the killers in this tier list, that's already maximum counter to these killers. So it's not really a counter to Legion specifically. Second of all, when Legion enters Feral Frenzy and hits somebody, he can carry it further. And then when Killer Instinct activates again when you find somebody further across the map, you instantly end Feral Frenzy. So you don't deplete your bar to 0, which is a mistake I see a lot of people doing. Is they'll hit somebody, they won't have Killer Instinct around them, and they'll just run and then completely deplete their Feral Frenzy, or they'll only commit to the one person that they're by. This is not how you play Legion. That is the bad way to play Legion. The best way to play Legion is to hit somebody, and if there's nobody around, run until you see Killer Instinct, end Feral Frenzy. That way you still have half your bar left, and by the time you reach that person, your Feral Frenzy is going to be back, and you can hit them, and then you could chain it to somebody else, and repeat this process. And another thing is that people say that you can split across the map and counter Legion, but at the same time, if you know spawn locations, very frequently Legion is going to find you before you even have the chance to split or know that it's a Legion. So at the beginning of the game, he can apply Feral Frenzy and hit 3 or even the whole team. So really, this is not an argument to me that makes a lot of sense, because people try to talk about countering killers in this perfect sense. And you have to realize that there's never perfect circumstances. It's like survivors aren't going to play perfect 24/7, and you can't use perfection as a counter to these killers. And I think this part makes Legion very strong because, you spawn in, you find 1 or 2 survivors at the beginning, you can chain Feral Frenzy, and then you can use that to find survivors who spawn further, pressure those gens, and everybody has to mend. They're not on gens, and you are effectively applying a lot of 1v4 pressure. Legion's weakness, however, is pallet looping. But if you are a very good M1 killer, very similar to Wraith, Clown, etc., maybe even Ghostface, you're able to get use out of your power, but it's just going to take you a bit to get around some of these pallet loops. Otherwise, though, effectively he is a multi-step one-shot killer. Because if you think about it, if you use Feral Frenzy and everybody is injured, they're one-shot, right? So pretty much his power is to make survivors one-shot under any circumstances. And I think that just makes him generally strong. And I do think he's stronger than Huntress because he's 115 and he can stall the game more than she can. And maybe people will disagree, but this is just my opinion. I don't know. I think his 1v4 is incredible. He's very consistent. And he doesn't have a lot of quote-unquote counters besides regular pallet looping. And even then, if you are a highly skilled killer, you can still definitely overcome, pallet loops via mind gaming and etc. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. We're going to put Leatherface up there. Leatherface is very oppressive when it comes to chasing. He forces the pallets down over and over and over and over. And I just think that makes him just very strong. Unfortunately, he has a counter of windows, but you can bring Bamboozle, for example. If you were to put Double Chili on him, I'd move him up to A tier, almost even S tier. Double Chili is so good on him. But we're going to keep him here. His anti-loop is incredible. He's very oppressive. and he forces like pallets down instantly. If you don't throw the pallets down against Leatherface, you're gonna die. And that also leads trouble to the mid to end game because there's gonna be no pallets. And then he becomes even more oppressive. So that's what makes Leatherface so strong, and makes him stronger than the killers before him, is just his sheer ability to put survivors in these circumstances that they're just gonna die, like if they don't throw the pallet. And we're getting into those killers who are starting to have oppressive powers. All the killers before these don't really have too oppressive powers. Legion could be annoying, but I wouldn't consider his power oppressive. Trickster's anti-loop is a little bit oppressive, but still not as strong as Huntress. But Leatherface, if they're good, you just have to chuck the pallets. It's just oppressive. Let's go ahead and move on to the next killer, Pyramid Head. So a lot of people, I think, put Pyramid higher than I do. I'm not too sure. I haven't looked at tier list recently. I think his anti-loop is very good, and his anti-loop alone is what makes him incredibly strong. Now, he also has the ability to quote-unquote tunnel, or at least get around DS and things like that by caging people. Unfortunately, he doesn't have map mobility. He has what's called kind of anti-map mobility, right? So instead of him moving to the survivors, he's able to move the survivors far away from him. And I don't know how I feel about that. I don't think that he has enough to be A tier, but his sheer overwhelming anti-loop definitely puts him high above all these other killers. Being able to hit people through walls, as long as you're good at predicting, I feel like he could be super oppressive. And he can also put high stress on the team by countering unhooks very easily, or uncages, because he can hit multiple survivors at the same time when they're lined up like that trying to get unhooks. So that alone makes him stronger than Leatherface, I think, because he doesn't have to worry too much about pallets. I don't think there's much of a power difference between the two, but I do think that Pyramid Head in general can do better than Leatherface in a lot of scenarios. Now we have the final killer in this tier list, Doctor. Now, Doctor is very strong. Almost strong enough to be A tier, but he lacks mobility, which is why I don't put him in A tier. He is able to shock the entire map, bind survivors. He has incredibly oppressive anti-loop. He can stop window vaulting. He can stop pallet throwing. He can even mind game god pallets with his shock. I think that his power is just overall, especially if you're very good with the shocks, oppressive. He has very oppressive add-ons as well, but we're not going to talk about that. Like, if he had discipline add-ons, I might put him A tier. But since we're talking about just generally against good players with not the strongest add-ons, he's definitely B tier. His sheer locational tool, as well as his anti-loop, is very strong. And let's not forget, he also has built-in game slowdown, which people have to snap out of Madness tier 3 very frequently. Like, I think that his is almost better than the Pig's, because at least you guarantee that you're going to make them snap out of Madness 3 multiple times per match. Pig can't guarantee that. Pig can guarantee maybe they'll get it off on the first try. But Doctor, I think it's like the right way to do it. You would just have to snap out of it for a certain amount of time. And that's about it. Just a very oppressive, very strong M1 killer. Blocks windows, blocks pallets, as long as you can time your shocks correctly. Survivors can't do a lot against him. It's just pretty much trying to gain as much distance and not go down for as long as you can. All right. So now we're going to move on to A tier. The thing that separates A and B tier mostly is mobility. I think very high mobility killers are A tier, regardless of if you think that their power itself is stronger than the ones below. Just the fact that you can get from point A to point B on the map much faster than all these other killers automatically makes you better. I think that mobility, if we were to give a numerical value in terms of power versus mobility, I think that mobility would almost have the biggest multiplier out of all of them in terms of ranking killers. All right, so first one on the list is Billy. I think that Billy is given more credit than he really needs. People, with his old add-ons, he used to be a lot more oppressive than he is now. His overheat isn't a big deal. You almost never overheat. He can curve a lot of loops as well, but I just don't think against a good player you're going to get a lot of these curves. Like a good player won't let you. I went against a good Billy the other day. You know what I did? I just threw pallets. Because if I give him the chance to curve me around a loop, that's my fault. All I got to do is throw the pallets while my team does the gens. Now, the best part about him, though, obviously, is his ability to get from point A to point B incredibly fast. Almost faster than every other killer, but not quite. Unfortunately, his anti-loop isn't that great. If you try to M2 like all game with him against good players, you're probably going to lose the game. I know there's a lot of people who think that Billies shouldn't M1. That's why they call him Millie. But I think that this opinion is stupid. You know, I get it. Maybe you have more fun dodging a Billy who's trying to curve and chainsaw. But if you're not M1ing as Billy, you're effectively throwing the match against good players. Otherwise, though, he has a very strong kit, being able to one-shot people who are outpositioned, as well as being able to cut them off with his high speed and get from generator to generator. Makes him very strong, definitely deserving of A tier, just not as strong as he used to be. Alright, so let us go ahead and talk about the next one in the list. We're going to be talking about Demogorgon. Demogorgon actually got some changes on the PTB. You can read up on the patch notes if you want, but he just got a lot of good overhauls to his add-ons. He's getting Rat Liver semi-base kit now. His teleport speed is faster. His recovery is faster. His undetectable is longer. Overall, the reason I think that Demogorgon is better than Billy is because I think that Demogorgon's anti-loop is better than Hillbilly's. He's able to put portals on gens. He's able to track what gens are being worked on if they're activated. He's able to break pallets instantly. He's able to always have pressure mid-loop via his shred. And overall, I think he's just oppressive. A good Demogorgon will win pretty much every single chase very fast. There's not much you can do against him besides throw pallets. And even if you throw the pallet, he instantly breaks it with his face. So with these changes coming, I think he's going to be even stronger than he was before. Now, obviously, he's not the strongest killer in the game, and I think he's very balanced. I think Demogorgon is one of the most balanced killers in this game. But his kit, overall, is very strong. There's a lot of people who don't use his portals, though, and they don't think that the changes that they made to Demo are good. But if you're like me, and if you watch my Demogorgon guide, I talk about this, using his portals is important. And if you don't use them, that's on you. If you don't understand how to use them, I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. His portals are very strong. You can set portals on every gen on the map and have almost complete map knowledge and complete mobility anywhere you want. So he definitely deserves A tier, and he has great anti-loop. Now, after him is Oni. I had a hard time actually trying to decide where I would put Oni on this. Simply because he has the same problem as Myers, just to lesser of an extent. You have to get a hit at the beginning of the game, get your power rolling with Oni. Now, I thought about this for a while, and I'm like, is that big of a deal? And you know, honestly, I don't think it is. I think that no matter what, it's actually fairly easy to get hit at the beginning of the game. Even against good players, you'll probably end up finding somebody either outpositioned at an unsafe pallet, something where you'll be able to at least force your hit and get your power rolling. And don't forget, it's okay to lose 2 generators as Oni without having hooked somebody yet. Because the way his power works is you have to get it rolling first. But once you get it rolling, my god, this guy is a truck. He is insane. He can instant break pallets, he can fucking fly across the map. Now, don't get me wrong. He has counterplay. It's just you have to be on your toes against a good Oni as a good survivor in order to anti-loop him. But if the Oni knows what he's doing, there is almost very little you can do against him. Very little. However, there's still counterplay, which makes him, you know, obviously not going to be S tier or anything, especially at the beginning of the game. But he is very strong, and his power, in my opinion, is a little less balanced than Demogorgon's. Because, let's be real, you know, downing somebody with your big stick, and then, you know, being able to down more people in the same power, it's like laughing at a killer's power like Plague. It's like, haha, you get pallet stunned, you lose yours, but I literally kill the entire team in one use of my power because I don't have to worry about anything. It's just stupid. But overall, he's very fucking strong. Very good killer. And yeah, next killer on the list is Freddy. Freddy got some changes. I actually used to think Freddy was S tier, but with the changes, I won't put him there anymore. he's still incredibly strong, incredibly oppressive. So let's go ahead and talk about the changes they did to him. They made his snares, they took his snare charges down from like 9 to 5. So now he only has like 5, and he slows down to survivor movement speed, so 100% when he's placing a snare. And as well as this, dream pallets are reduced from 9 to 7 tokens. And then also dream clocks. You know how if you used a dream clock before, for those of you guys who didn't know, you would stay awake. You not only wake up, but you also couldn't start falling asleep for another 30 seconds unless the killer hit you. Now, if you use a dream clock, you get the same effect, except for that 30 seconds, you cannot fall asleep by any means, even if the killer hits you. So they added a little bit of counterplay now if you use the clocks to avoid going to sleep. But I don't actually think this is going to change Freddy's power that much. They also changed some of his add-ons, some of his slowdown, which is great. But his ability to teleport... Sorry, my brain's all over the place. I'm like talking about one thing and then interrupt it. But he has teleporting across the map, which makes him very fucking strong. Like, being able to just teleport instantly to a generator whenever you want, half the time, is just strong. And the nerf to his snares isn't going to do anything. Because a good Freddy, how it works, is you have a pallet and the survivor is asleep. You put a snare on one side, and then you put a snare on the other side. You push him into one snare, and then you double back again while he's slowed, and then they go into the other snare, and then you get a hit on them. That's how you play Freddy. And the only thing this quote-unquote nerf does to him is it makes it to where if you're bad at Freddy, you can't just fucking spam 800 snares at Killer Shack because you don't know how to run it. A good Freddy isn't going to be affected by this, and that's just it. They'll be pretty much the same. Next on the list, we have the Twins. The Twins is oppressive. I hate the Twins. Twins makes me want to DC as Survivor. So the Twin strength is as follows. You want to kind of play injury heavy at the beginning of the match. You want to injure as many people as possible. Then after that, you can use Victor to down them and camp their corpse with Victor. Now, Victor gives Killer Instinct to those of you who don't know, to people who are near him, unless crouching. Crouching counters Killer Instinct, if you did not know, against Victor. So, where was I going with this? The strategy is to down somebody, camp their corpse with Victor, then pilot Charlotte around and try to, hit people, down people, etc. until you hear Killer Instinct near the corpse again. And by then, hopefully you've injured people, so you immediately swap back to Victor, and you down the person who comes and tries to pick up your slug. And then you have 2 slugs, right? And then you switch back to Charlotte. You see where I'm going with this? He's pretty much a slug god. And this makes them very, very, very fucking oppressive. Very annoying. They do have changes coming from the PTB that were apparently bugged. So I might change my placement, but overall, this killer is very, very strong. Very oppressive and very annoying. It has few counters if you know what you're doing. And I play this killer. I pretty much get 1 hook on every survivor per game because I end up 4-man slugging them at 5 gens because it's just so easy to do. Now, people think that the counter to her or to them is to kidnap Victor, but let me tell you, if you kidnap Victor, I'm gonna laugh at you because I'm gonna take Charlotte and I'm gonna play her like a regular M1 killer while the survivor who has Victor on their head thinks they're being smart by taking Victor. But guess what? You can't do gens. You can't heal anybody. You literally can't do anything. So you can have Victor all day. I won't take him back. I'll literally let him sit on your head. It's pretty much a 1v3 if you do that. But yeah, Twins, very strong. Okay, so the last killer in A tier is going to be Hagatha. I used to think Hag was S tier, but I ran into players that actually really know how to counter her well, by triggering her traps on the very, very, very edge of the radius of where they can be triggered. And it just, if you really know how to counter Hag, it can be fucking annoying. But otherwise, her ability to set up a web and pretty much be in chase and camp multiple survivors at the same time is so strong. Camping isn't her strongest playstyle. Many people think she does. Her ability to have a web and quote unquote, like I said, chase more than one survivor at once just makes her strong. And she doesn't even need like good add-ons to do it. Overall, she's just very oppressive, and you have to be so careful. So careful. People run like run so much against the hag. But like if you know you're in her web and you're running and you trigger a trap, you're very dumb. You gotta crouch, you gotta be smart. But overall, very oppressive power, very strong, able to down survivors, you know, bang, 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 bang if they're triggering traps. Like overall, she's just a super good killer. And very good at protecting the hook as well. Not a lot of downsides, but let me tell you, I say this in every tier list. Brian S makes me hate playing hag. Somebody can tell him I said that, but he really knows how to counter hag. So that's why I don't put her in S tier anymore. All right, so now we're going to move on to the best of the best. We got Spirit, Nurse, and Blight, and we're going to start off with Spirit. So S tier is pretty much killers that ignore most game mechanics. So you can't really tell when the Spirit is phasing. Like, she's invisible. You're being chased by an invisible killer. It's like, imagine if you were being chased by Wraith, except you couldn't see him. That's Spirit. Now, she does have some counterplay, some mind games you could do with her. But if she has a very good headset and very good ears, there's not a lot you can do. You'll probably die within a set amount of time against her. You know, obviously, you can still win mind games against her and make her waste her power, which is very fucking good if you do that. It's what they have to do in comp. But overall, she's just fucking strong. She phases, hits you, phases, hits you again. Now with Lucky Break coming out, she's going to have more than one counter other than Iron Will, depending on if they nerf Lucky Break or not. But overall, oppressive, hard to get any counterplay against her, and very annoying to go against in my opinion. That's why she's S tier. Next, Blight. Now I know what's about to happen. I'm just gonna say it. J flicking is not what makes Blight S tier. I'm just gonna say that. People think that J flicking is the only thing that makes Blight good. I don't J flick, and I've played Blight in competitive gameplay. It's a load of shit. J flicking is not what makes Blight good. So if you were gonna say that, please don't. That's just don't. All right. So Blight is, in my opinion, almost as strong as Nurse, and in some situation he's stronger than Nurse. But I just think the fact that there's still pallets and windows, that it's just enough to where he's not stronger. So let's go over his power. He can get from one side of the map to the other no matter what. He is the highest mobility killer in this entire game. Well, maybe aside from Freddy, but even then, he can use his power way more frequently than Freddy. So, well, not only that, but his anti-loop is absurd. If you know what you're doing, you can hit anybody at almost every loop, even Jungle Gems, even Killer Shack. The only thing that really stops him are God Pallets. Now, the one thing that makes him very difficult to play is that you need to have map knowledge of every single tile in the game. Because when you're playing him, you pretty much need to think 5 steps ahead. You're pretty much playing like Geometry Dash in your head. You need to know what walls you're going to hit. You have to also predict where the survivor is going to go in the loop. And you have to time that perfectly with the dashes and the structure of whatever you're chasing in order to accurately hit your dashes. Now, I have a guide for Blight and I talk about this, but he is very hard to play, but he is so rewarding. He is incredibly fucking strong. Incredibly strong. And I think people need to give him more credit where it's due. I don't think people think that he's as strong as he is, but I know he is one of the strongest killers in this game. Like, he is Nurse level in my opinion. Let's go ahead and move on. Last but not least, we have the Nurse. Do I even need to talk about it? Nurse is very strong. She can blink through walls. She can hit you through walls. Her power has a fast recharge. She doesn't have a lot of punishment for missing blinks. And if a Nurse knows how to hit her power, you're pretty much going to die. Now, obviously, she has counterplay. You can double back. You can try to read her mind where she's going to blink, where she's going to try to cut you off. But overall, a very good Nurse against a very good player. The Nurse is probably going to take a poop on you. In order to beat a Nurse, you pretty much just have to last... You have to buy time for your team to do gens, pretty much, because it's a race against time. Is the Nurse going to down you, or are you going to get 1 or 2 mind games in before she downs you? It's not like, I'm going to loop this Nurse the whole game. If the Nurse is good, you're going to die. Now, there are some instances where I do think that Blight is better than Nurse. For example, very huge maps, Blight's mobility, in my opinion, is better than Nurse. because he can use it over and over and over, while Nurse has to blink, fatigue, blink, fatigue, blink, fatigue. Blight can go across the map. You know, he does have to recharge, but like he could get from point A to point B and defend gens, in my opinion, much easier than Nurse. I think the Blight has a better 1v4, but Nurse has a better 1v1. She's not bad at 1v4 either, but Blight's is better. But overall, she's a very oppressive killer, and she's been one of the strongest killers in this game since her release. And there you have it. Sorry if it's a bit jumbled. I don't ever make scripts for my videos. I just don't. I just fucking go ham. And I just give you my current opinion without reading off of anything. Yeah. So if it ever sounds a bit jumbled, this is why. But hopefully you guys enjoyed. I know a lot of you guys might not agree with some of these. This is my first time putting them in any specific order. If you disagree with some of my opinions, that's perfectly okay. Feel free to tell me why in the comments, what you disagree with. You tell me what you agree with, or if you want to pick my brain about certain opinions, like why I think X is better than X specifically, or compare some powers. I'm more than happy to discuss it, have civil conversations and things like that. Just know that your like a lot of negative comments aren't welcome. I'll probably just hide you from the channel and ban you. So just be considerate, have good conversations, and you know, these things are fun. This is for fun. You know, it's a game. I want to have fun conversations, so keep that in mind. And as I said, this comes from experience. I try to be as objective as possible when talking about these killers. I've played them all to the very best of their ability for the most part, and I think that my opinion has a lot of weight because of my experience in the game. You know, and that's just the way it is. I think that somebody with 4.5 thousand hours is going to have a better understanding than somebody with 500 hours, or even 1,000 or 2,000. Because the sheer experience difference is just, that's just how it is. And yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. If you guys are new to the channel and you enjoyed this conversation and you enjoy, listen to me talk, feel free to subscribe, turn on notifications. You can even join us in the Discord or follow me on Twitch. I play Twitch or play live on Twitch all the time. You'll be able to pick my brain. I do killer requests. You can make me play a certain killer. And you'll be able to see me play these killers, talk about their strengths, and you'll be able to see the strategy I use when I play different killers. And maybe you'll be able to actually see why I put certain killers where they do, where maybe you thought that it was weak in this aspect. You'll watch me play and you'll think, oh, wow, actually, they're actually really strong. And I can see you using their certain power to the best of their ability here. And now I kind of understand why you think so highly of them, just for an example. And yeah. That's about it. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, night, evening, morning, whatever time it is, wherever you guys live. And I'll see you guys in the fog. Peace. Thank you guys for watching.